Jesus said, "If you wish to be perfect, go and sell what you own, and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." These words from St. Matthew's Gospel became the guiding light of St. Antony's life. In accordance with them, he gave away all his lands and possessions to the poor, provided for his younger sister, and finally gave himself over to an ascetic life.
Some historians claimed that hermits lived here, and that there were exchanges with Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt. It was an exchange of monks, a spiritual exchange. That is why there is a tradition in Egypt that speaks about St. Ephraim having visited Egypt, and here a Syrian tradition in which St. Antony is said to have visited the Lebanon.
St. Antony is regarded as the spiritual father of all hermits, and as the first monk. Without a doubt, he's the first well-known person to have committed himself to a solitary life in the desert, one dedicated to God by way of prayer and ascetic existence. On reaching Egypt's Thebaid desert in the 3rd century, he became an eremite, and in an act of heroism dedicated himself to God. To this day, Antony Abad, Antony the Eremite, Antony the Great, Antony the Hermit, father of Christian monasticism, is known by his diminutive of Desert Star. With time, admiring his faith and asceticism, numerous disciples began to join Antony, their search for their own road to holiness, confirming him in his heroic chosen way of life.
According to word-of-mouth tradition, St. Antony's disciples, who once lived in Egypt, later moved to living in grottos to be found near the monastery entrance. This grotto, together with the one presently converted as a place of worship, are this monastery's foundation.
Antony began his spiritual combat with a host of temptations from an animal burrow, later continued the fight from a cave, and finally from an abandoned tower infested with venomous snakes. Infamous and well-known are the later temptations Antony had to endure in the desert. Beautiful women appearing as temptresses in various sensual guises, unclean spirits in the form of wild beasts, or people tempting him by auguring great dangers ahead, dancing in a delirious state, encouraging evil deeds. He endured many such attacks, but every vision conjured up by Satan was repelled by Antony's fervid prayer and penitential acts. Antony's biographer, St. Athanasius, very succinctly described Antony's role in establishing the foundation of Christian monastic life. He engulfed the desert with his holiness and populated it with his followers.
The hermits who once lived here would primarily seek to flee the company of others, the noise and urban turmoil, in their search for peace, contemplation, and God. In times of persecution, people would follow hermits in their search for secluded places, inaccessible to occupying force and oppressor alike.
Hermits would retreat to a secluded place from whence they would fight to restore a world order that had gone. They propounded that to change the world one had to begin by changing oneself. That principle applied by eremites in their spiritual development attracted the attention of their contemporaries. People from the great cities, notables both temporal and spiritual, sought guidance on how to live and best carry out their obligations, convinced that precisely those people attached to the desert, detached from the world, would have a clear understanding and a more focused view of life. Hermits continue to live under clearly defined principles.
Oriental principles of the hermitage prescribe that hermits can, in fact, only leave their hermitage if empowered to do so by the head of the monastery. A hermit has the right to 5 hours sleep. He has the right to just one meal every 24 hours. And he has a duty to celebrate 7 monastic liturgies. He must divide his time between tending the garden, prayer, and contemplation. In between, he can receive lay people seeking help to solve problems, to attend confession, or he